Welcome back. Now it's time for our weekly U.S. election tracker update with our contributor, Wyatt Sharpe. He will be speaking to Jeffrey Duncan, former Lieutenant Governor of Georgia.
And let's talk about that 10%, because a lot of people, at least the polls suggest, aren't really too enthusiastic about either Donald Trump or Joe Biden. And so this debate, I guess, is almost forcing at least some segments of the population to choose kind of the lesser of two evils, so to speak. If we're thinking about the debate, what types of arguments do Joe Biden and Donald Trump have to make in order to, again, persuade those people that just aren't yet convinced?
I think the economy is a big issue, right? As we break this down, and there's all kinds of moving metrics, but the economy just seems so unstable right now, which is an interesting take because for some folks, this is the worst economy they've ever seen or experienced, right? It's the first house to be able to try to afford it, or their rent or groceries. Others wake up and this is the greatest economy ever. Their 401ks are worth more, their jobs are secure, their house is worth more. So I think owning this economy and being able to explain it to that 10%, I think is going to be a huge step in the right direction. But this election is about that 10% and who stays on the couch and who actually shows up to vote. I think motivating this crowd, this 10%, to show up and vote for somebody is really going to be who ends up winning this race.
And I mean, let's talk a little bit about the logistics of the debate itself, because of course you have the Trump campaign kind of making themselves out to be the victim of the situation, so to speak, in the sense
Imagine
of
that.
talking about, how Donald Trump, shouldn't even agree to this debate. You had Steve Bannon yesterday on his show saying that CNN should issue an apology to the Trump spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, for what happened with Casey Hunt on the morning show. I mean, it's not very often that you have one of the candidates questioning the, nonpartisanship of one of the moderators of the debate. Does it pose any barriers?
Well, look, it's just Trump being Trump, right? Him and his team around him just continue to always sow seeds of doubt and chaos everywhere they go. Certainly don't have to look no further than the 2020 election right here and all the chaos that ensued from his, malicious behavior. But that's what they do. And I think that is what that 10% in the middle that actually cares about a leader being a leader is looking for. Not looking for in Donald Trump, but looking for somebody to rise up to the occasion. Sowing seeds of doubt is nothing new to Donald Trump. It's really one of the things that repulsed me the most. Waking up the hours after the 2020 election and hearing him try to sow seeds of doubt as to the authenticity of our election here in Georgia was un-American, first of all. It was very discouraging to see somebody in that role that I had voted for be willing to lie just to be able to self-preserve their career in office.
And so obviously you have Donald Trump, who, kind of the elephant in the room for him, the fact that he's now a convicted felon. But then you also have Joe Biden, who Alan Lichtman, he's a notable professor who's predicted 9 out of 10 of the last presidential election, says Joe Biden is poised to win, at least if, nothing substantial happens at this point in time here. And one of the things that he's making, and the point that he's making as it relates to the president's cognitive decline, is that going to be perhaps a barrier to him being able to defeat someone like former President Trump?
I think Trump will defeat himself, right? That he just continues to just step on his own toes, continues to chew on his own words. You pick the analogy, he is his own worst enemy. He can't help himself. It's really what has led me to walk away from him, even though I'm a card-carrying Republican. I got to represent this great state for almost 10 years in the state house and then as lieutenant governor. I was very conservative. I'm just not angry about it. I don't feel like the brand of Republicanism that he brings to work every day is one that I stand behind. So certainly there are folks looking for this cognitive ability, but at the end of the day, Donald Trump is visceral and vile, and there's really not a lot of facts that back up his rhetoric. And so once again, we continue to point back to this 10% that are going to pay attention to the details. I think this all comes down to motivating them to get off the couch to actually do something.
And obviously, Donald Trump is created somewhat of a political movement within the Republican Party. I was speaking recently to Joe Walsh, who, like yourself, was a card-carrying Republican. He's now an independent. He calls himself politically homeless, just based off of the nature of what's happening in American politics right now. I guess my question here is just, what happens to the American political system after 2024 when Donald Trump, presuming if he were to win, for example, he wouldn't be eligible to run again. But there's the likes of Kari Lake, even the people who are going to be at the debate, Byron Donalds, all of these people who are almost creating like a secondary Republican Party, it seems.
Well, let's start with the first, what I think is the most likely outcome. Donald Trump gets beat and Joe Biden becomes president for 4 more years. And we have an opportunity as Republicans to build a GOP 2.0 in those 4 years, where we actually care about character and values and conservatism. We don't act like Republicans when the media is looking at us, but then spend $8 trillion like Donald Trump of money we don't have. That's not Republican. That's not conservative. So we need to take our medicine and take the 4 years between 24 and 28, rebuild, let some folks rise rise up to the top that actually understand Republican values, understand the value of leadership and authenticity and moral character and all those things that have mattered for hundreds of years in this country. That's what I'm doing. I'm supporting Joe Biden not because I'm a Democrat, not because I plan to become a Democrat, but because I'm a Republican so tired of watching our Republican Party fall apart that I'm willing to invest early in somebody else so Donald Trump gets beat right here, right now, and we can pick up the pieces and move on.